Good Wednesday afternoon and evening. I'm Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score. It's a high school fan zone. I don't know if Clint mentioned this. He was telling me, he was asking me, so I don't know if he avoided the same fate he had with Jamie Lent and didn't say this. This is the final. Next week is the final week of the high school fan zone for the school year. We'll be back in late August, early September, and obviously it'll be a little bit different. We're going to talk about it, why it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to add another school to the rotation because Memorial gets today. I typed in a schedule for the first time. Typed in something on a schedule that said Frenship Memorial. I was it kind of wakes you up a little bit. But we've got two more. We got this show. We've got two next week. So let's go ahead and jump into the Tiger fan zone. I've got my friend Chad Reynolds to my left. If you're watching on TV, he's the Frenship Baseball coach. The Tiger season just wrapped up in the area round. Lost a couple tough games to Southlake Carrol. And I mentioned this in the story I wrote. Chad, somewhere down the road, your players now, and you called yourself old a minute ago. Old Coach Reynolds are going to look back on this stretch of area round games you've had, and it's going to be old memories because you guys are going to find it in the area round. You're going to start reeling them off. I feel you're going through a transition here because Memorial comes in. Brandon Roberson's going to steal some of your players. Yeah. I teased him about that the other day. I asked him if you took his keys yet since he's taking players.
No kidding, I need to.
But I have a sense that with what you guys have built at Frenship over what do we decide walking in, 18 years?
Yeah, I think I just finished 18.
What you've built, eventually you're going to get to the area round. It reminds me a little bit when I was at the AJ before I left. Lubbock Cooper was 3A, and they kept getting to that level, kept knocking on the door, and kept getting turned away. And Terry Baxter just kept coaching them, kept preparing. And now Lubbock Cooper's right there with you guys as far as the most consistent programs in Lubbock.
Yeah, it's it's been a tough few years this area around. I think it's funny. The first year we went 6A, we got to the regional semifinals.
There you go.
And so you just never know.
Nope.
It's just a lot of it's the right draw. Maybe we need to quit winning that district.
Okay, Northcott and I have talked about that. That sometimes that's because Southlake Carrol seems that now. You're out there waiting for Southlake Carrol too. They've got to get ready for you to not in their defense. To their credit, they had to play well against you guys, and they did.
Yeah, you know what? They had a really good weekend, and we didn't, but they had a lot to do with it. It was a really fun place to play.
Yes, it was.
Good venue, and just a lot of things. Happened that series that it was just game one. We get to the sixth inning. I think they've got 2 hits.
Yep, and it was 4-0, but it wasn't
right
overcome. It was an overcomable 4-0.
Right. We felt like we had given them way too many free things, and the guys they had on the mound for them, they weren't giving up anything and made it really hard on us. And so it was just it was a tough weekend. Saturday, Bayado, their starter, I think we had 1 hit, and it was about a 12-foot number.
It was.
And, but he was really good. He's signed with Tennessee. Going to go pitch for Frank Anderson out at Tennessee. And so, we knew it was going to be tough, but I was proud of our kids. They got after it and competed. Wish some things would have bounced our way. Braxton Neal just kept us right in the game on Saturday. And
I told him afterwards I enjoyed watching. I've seen him a few times, but I enjoyed him, the way he pitched in that environment against that. And I know pitchers, I tell this to them all the time, they aren't competing head-to-head with a pitcher in terms of, I got to strike you, but Jake Qualia from Lubbock Cooper talks about how it gets his blood going when he knows the other guy's throwing really well.
Yeah, it's that you have to be good too, and we had some things happen just defensively that tough plays that we probably make most of the time, and we didn't, and they caught fire right there. But you know what? It was one of those things. Southlake Carrol's a really good program. They've got, in the last 5 years, I don't know, maybe 3 state championships, and I would think they're going to probably contend for one here in a few weeks.
I'll tell you what, I'll call him an outsider. He's the guy who shot the 2 games for me. He's a guy who lives up there, has no connection to Lubbock or to Frenship. And he texted me on Sunday or Monday and said, this was him now, somebody who has no connection. He said when it was 1-0 and you guys started getting on base and causing some action, he said, I told the guy next to me, Frenship's about to win this game and we're going to a 3rd game. So you're right, your guys they couldn't get a hit, but they figured him out a little bit, drew some walks, let the ball hit him, which I know old coach Ernie Pantuzzo from Cheers used to make a living out of that. I don't know if I'm aging myself, but it's never fun to get hit necessarily, but in those situations, your guys were doing things
right
to get onto the scoreboard.
Yeah, we just we left the bases loaded. We just couldn't get that big hit when we needed to, and that's sometimes what Ron Washington says. That's just the way baseball goes.
Yep,
and
exactly.
And that's the way it went on Saturday. Well, Friday and Saturday, and but very proud of our kids.
Well, let's go back because a little bit of a damper at the end. But you guys won 24 games.
Yeah.
Won your district for the 5th year in a row. Won by district for the 5th year in a row to get to that round, or 4th out of 5. So it's not like that season was chopped liver. I mean,
right,
you guys accomplished an awful lot.
Absolutely. That's what we talked about at the end of the day. They're going to look back on this, and this weekend the sting will go away, and they're going to look back on what the season was. And we lost a lot of guys a year ago, and so
hold on to that thought because I want to come back and talk about it. You gave me a great quote I want to build off of, and I just mentioned this to you. You and I, it's been a while since you and I were high school guys, but high school kids their wounds heal a lot quicker than.
Oh yeah.
I get in trouble for saying this sometimes. By the time my season was over, I was ready to get in my car, drive around, chase girls, and do some other things that probably I'm not going to talk about on there. So there's your guys will be. Plus, your guys, you got a lot of them. They're going to go play high level summer ball just like you always do. So your guys will. You could sense that afterwards. I love watching you guys afterwards because your guys were in the right mind frame. So we're coming up on a break. We'll come back in the Tiger Zone, talk more Frenship Baseball on 100.7 The Score. I'm Randy Rosetta, and we'll be back after the break.
Breaking down Frenship Sports. This is the Tigers Fan Zone podcast from 100.7 The Score.
Welcome back into the Tiger Fan Zone. We are talking Frenship Baseball. I'm Randy Rosetta. This is 100.7 The Score. I meant to call it up in the break here, but Chad and I got to talking. When we were talking after the game the other day in Frisco, you talked about, let me put it in this perspective too, you and I have a good relationship, so I don't have to pick the scab very much to get you to talk. Sometimes there's other coaches out there have to draw. We have to talk for a while, but this was something I didn't necessarily ask you this line of questioning, but this quote, I'm going to read it to you here. It kind of follows up on what you said about you said, I'm really proud of this team. They really competed at a high level all year long. There wasn't a lot expected out of them because of how many guys we lost, and these guys took that personally. They worked hard every single day and took a lot of pride in continuing our tradition of winning. You can say that as a coach, and you can say that at the beginning of the season, but you got 16, 17, 8, and you guys even had a 15-year-old, I think.
Yeah, you just turned 15.
It's one thing to hear that from your coach, but teenage athletes, sometimes it takes a little bit of intestinal fortitude to make that happen.
You're right, and I think it was after the first. Actually, it was after the second tournament. We went to the Metroplex, and we got kicked a little bit, and just something to challenge them. We kind of poked that bear and said, "Hey, we're living up to what everybody thinks of you right now. Our district, what you were picked, and I guess they were right." And so they kind of took offense to it, and they and now we didn't play bad in the FW. Played some really good teams, played some close games, but we didn't win many like we thought we should have or wanted to, I guess I should say. And so they rolling into district, they kind of had a chip on their shoulder, and we talked about playing with the edge and something to prove, and we just reminded them of that all the time. And you could tell they had already talked about it. They knew, I didn't know if they knew. I didn't know if they see all that stuff, the preseason stuff, but they knew. They knew where they were picked, and they took it personal, and they got after it. They got after it and did a good job this year, and it was a good mix of. We had a lot of old guys, but we had a lot of young guys as well, and so it was a good mix.
Young guys.
Yeah, we play a freshman and 2 sophomores that they're in the lineup, every day just about, and so that it was a good mix. Those those young kids didn't act like young kids for the most part. They're mature, and it was a fun group. It was a really fun group. Saturday was hard. It was hard when that thing was over. One of the hardest I've ever. They're always hard. They're all when you end the season in the playoffs. It's always tough. But I'll be lying if I say this wasn't one of the toughest ones I've had. And
I've used this with a lot of coaches when they brought that up. I'm a big KU person. I think a lot of people know that. Roy Williams was the coach there for years, and he used to cry every time the season ended. He'd cry. They never won the national championship when he was there, but if they get to the Final Four, and finally somebody said, "Why do you cry at the end of every year?" And he said, "Because as a coach, you look at your guys and you realize, I'll keep in touch with these guys. I'll be at their weddings, but you won't ever have that group."
Right.
That exact group in that dugout, in that locker room together, and that tugs at your heartstrings.
It does. You spend a lot of time with them, and at this age, they're kids, but they're you feel like they're part of your family.
Well, and you've got a special connection to this group too, because your son Weston was one of your dudes on the mound.
He was. That was a last bus trip of a lot of them since he was barely walk. He'd get on that bus every once in a while and go with us, but it was tough, and then on top of that, we're losing a couple of coaches that are going to go over
because
to Memorial.
Memorial's opening, so you lose Brandon Roberson and who else?
Gentry Griffith.
Okay,
and Gentry played for us in the early 2000s, and so it's not like they're guys that just been around for a little bit. We've been together a long time, and so. It's just a lot of change. It was the end of an era, and
it's closing a lot of chapters.
Yeah, closing a lot. You're right.
We went through this with some Lubbock Cooper coaches a few years ago, and I've mentioned it to Paul Page and to Jay that all of a sudden you get to the end of this season and you realize, well, we're not the only school anymore. So
so what you said. It's not only is it this group won't be together again. Well, it really won't be together again, and it was tough, and it's always tough, and. We just turned in our equipment and stuff today, and we've got banquet next week. But I told the seniors, "Hey guys, I don't want another goodbye. Y'all get out of here. See y'all.
There you go.
Get out of there."
Well, I'm glad I saved this to the end because we're about at the end. I don't want to get Chad tearing up over here. One of the cool things the other day is I looked down, and as you were hitting in and out, number 23 was out there as your catcher.
Yeah.
Weston Reynolds as his catcher. So we're going to wrap it up. That does it for the Tiger Fan Zone this week. We're coming back in the Pirate Fan Zone after this break on 100.7 The Score.